Hello and welcome to our third lesson of the Year 1 scheme of work of how to code with Scratch Jnr. And today we're going to look at creating algorithms which have different inputs. We've looked at motion blocks, we've looked at algorithms in general, now we're going to look at inputs. So we'll head to the lesson itself, and there is our lesson learning intention rather, to create algorithms which have different inputs. To be successful today, we need to remember what motion blocks are, can explain what an input is, and can experiment with event blocks. So the three vocabulary we're trying to push today is algorithm, which is retrieval. We've looked at that already in the first lesson. Sprite, we looked at the second lesson, and input is the new word, so we're going to be featuring that a lot. Now we're going to start with an input game. So it's really useful to explain what an input is the start of an algorithm. Something has to be inputted, okay? So we could think of maybe opening a door, the input to opening a door, maybe pulling down the handle. We can think of the input to making toast, we'll be putting toast inside the toaster and turning it on, things like that. So we can talk about outputs as well. When we talk about turning on a light, to get the output of the light to turn on, we need to hit the switch, turn that as well. So lots of discussion about inputs there, and real life examples will really help the children. We can then move on to an input game. So I've come across, created some rules here. You might want to create your own rules. When I smile, tap your table 3 times. When I touch my nose, squeak like a mouse. When I raise my hand, touch the carpet with both hands. So they realise that to an input, there is an output. Okay. Few key questions. What is the input for turning the TV on? Some children might speak about turning it on at the plug. Some children might speak about the remote. They are both inputs which cause an output. What's the input for getting in a car? So some children might talk about the keys to unlock the car. They might talk about opening the door. They'd both be correct. What's the input for starting the car? So they talk about turning the key, pressing the button. You can talk about different technologies of cars as well. It's a good opportunity to talk about real life and how technology is changing. We've got some cars with keyless entry, things like that. In terms of the blocks, we're going to show the blocks to the children today before we really model them. So we've got when green flag is clicked. The children have used this input already. They should be really clear with it. When the sprite is clicked, we can question the children. What do they think that might mean in terms of starting the code? And then when sprite is bumped, okay, that's what this one means. This is our challenge input today, and we'll talk about that challenge later. So what is the same about them all? We need the children to understand that the inputs are all yellow, because when they progress to the more complex coding programs, yellow blocks tend to be the inputs, and if they can get used to that idea, that's really going to help them moving forward. So we can then move on to model coding with these inputs, and we've got a situation here where we've got 2 sprites and a background. Now I'm going to hold my mouse down to get rid of these sprites here, and I'm going to start with a plain background because I want to take things right from the start. So what you'll need the children to do is choose a background. Any background that can be creative as they like. I'm going to choose the basketball court, the gym, okay? And then we're going to move over here to choose some sprites. We know that sprites are characters, and the children can cycle through these. I'm going to go with we're going to go for the rabbit. Click there. And we're going to go for the starfish, okay? So we have 2 sprites, okay? And what we want the children to do is experiment with the different inputs. So it may be that I've got the starfish selected and we can switch between these, and we know which one we've got selected because we've got the picture down here. I've got when the green flag is clicked, I'm going to say that it says hi, and it moves down, up, and then it does 5 jumps. Click on 5. Oh, not 55. 55 may be a little many. 5, okay. So then we could talk to the children. How do we test the code? They'll say, well, with this one, the input is using the green flag. Okay, so it says hi, moves around, and does the jumps. Now, this time with the rabbit, we want to choose a different input. So we're going to use the when sprite is clicked when we tap the rabbit. Okay, so I'm going to get the rabbit to move right and left. Oh, there we go. And then my rabbit is going to do, let's go with 10 jumps for the rabbit. I'm going to move them over here. So then, which input do I need for the rabbit? It's the tap on the sprite. So I click on him and there he goes. Whoa! And then I can do the starfish will still respond to the green. Okay? So that is the main task. If we go back to the task slide here. Code 2 sprites with 2 different inputs. Okay? So choose a background, choose 2 sprites, and can you create some code using 2 inputs? Maybe you can get both of your sprites interacting and moving at the same time. Now the challenge is this one here, is the bump. And for the bump to happen, we need a sprite to bump into another one, and then it will work. Now it will be really complicated, and you notice how it's constantly going because it's always bumping into the other sprite. It would be a real challenge, but it is complicated, but it is doable if you can get both of the sprites to bump into one another. So if I said the starfish doesn't say hi, I'm going to get rid of all this code here by just throwing it away like that. I'm going to have my starfish move forward, and when my starfish moves forward it will set off the rabbit if my code works properly. And there we have it. Okay, so that's more like a challenge, being able to use this bumping block here, and notice how the code keeps running because the bump block's still working, that contact between those 2 sprites.